Welcome back to the third part of disorders of heart. So now we will go with the last two diseases of your heart, that is cardiac arrhythmia and hypertension. Till now we have seen four diseases in our previous lectures, that was coronary artery disease, angina pectoris, then we have gone through your myocardial infarction and congestive heart failure. So with this lecture we will finish off our disorders of heart. So let's start with the first disease here, that is cardiac arrhythmia. So basically arrhythmia is anything that is away from the rhythm. Whenever there is change in the rhythmic beating of your heart, it is termed as arrhythmia. Fine. So the abnormal rhythms of your heart is termed as cardiac arrhythmia. So basically at rest your heart is normally showing a heartbeat of 50 to 100 beats per minute. It varies from person to person. So if there is any sort of abnormal rhythm, if this particular rhythm changes, then it will be termed as cardiac arrhythmia. So basically there are various types of cardiac arrhythmia, from which the most frequent ones are if your rhythm is too slow. If your rhythm is too slow, that is if your beats are less than 60 beats per minute. If you are having less than 60 beats per minute, then it will be termed as bradycardia. Brady means slow. Whereas if your beats are more than 100 per minute, if your heart is beating more than 100 beats per minute, then it will be termed as tachycardia. Tachy means fast. Fine. So here are the two distinctions of your cardiac arrhythmia. First one is bradycardia and second one is tachycardia, where bradycardia is slowing of your heartbeat, that is less than 60 beats per minute, whereas tachycardia is the one where your heartbeat is more than 100 beats per minute. Fine. Now next is flutter. So what is flutter? Flutter is the one where there is a extremely rapid but coordinated contraction of your heart. The beats are very rapid in the sense there may be 300 beats per minute. Like in case of tachycardia we have seen it is 100 beats per minute, whereas in case of flutter it is 300 beats per minute. But these 300 beats per minute are in a coordinated way. Fine. So if the beats are more and in a coordinated way, then it will be termed as flutter. Whereas if the beats are more but if they are uncoordinated, they are not well coordinated with each other, then it will be termed as fibrillation. So that is how we can distinguish flutter and fibrillation, where flutter is an coordinated increase in beat, whereas fibrillation is an uncoordinated increased heartbeat. Now if the electrical impulses of your heart is being interrupted or completely blocked, then that condition will be termed as heart block. Fine. If the conduction is completely blocked somehow, then it will be termed as heart block. So now we'll see the symptoms first. So as we have seen in the previous slide, that arrhythmia is any away from the rhythmic activity. If your heart is showing any sort of activity that is away from the rhythm, then it is termed as arrhythmia. So obviously the symptoms can be either increase in heart rate or decrease in heart rate. So if it is a racing heartbeat, then it is termed as tachycardia. So symptoms may be tachycardia or else it can be bradycardia. Either ways, there may be sometimes chest pain and shortness of breath. Along with it, sometimes the person may feel lightheadedness or dizziness along with sweating. This may lead to stress-like situation, and due to the stress-like situation, sometimes some people may also go into syncope or they may faint. Fine. So here the etiology or the reason behind cardiac arrhythmia may be lifestyle changes, that is alcohol, if you are taking any abusive substance or you are smoking, drinking too much of caffeine, if you are suffering with any of the heart diseases like congestive heart failure or hypertension. Similarly, if you are suffering with the lifestyle diseases like diabetes or the endocrinal disease like hyperthyroidism, then stress, or if there is scarring of your heart due to heart attack, whenever there is heart attack or myocardial infarction, there is necrosis of our cardiac tissues that may lead to scarring of that particular area, which may cause the conduction block. Fine. Or else if you are on any type of dietary or herbal supplements or on certain medications. So all these factors may cause your cardiac arrhythmia. So the basic pathophysiology or the basic mechanism behind your cardiac arrhythmia may be if there is any disturbance in impulse formation, if there is an altered impulse formation or altered impulse conduction, any of the two things can cause your cardiac arrhythmia. So basically here, if there is an altered impulse formation, if your impulse formation has changed or altered, the reason behind your altered impulse formation can be automaticity or triggered activity. Automaticity is whenever the SA node is being stimulated. So at that particular time, if something changes, that may lead to change in the automaticity. Similarly, triggered activity means without completing a full action potential or a complete cycle, your SA node or AV node, whatever the conduction points are, they are getting stimulated again and again. So that may be a triggered activity. Similarly, impulse conduction also varies in the form of re-entry. So basically, this is your action potential of an heart or the cardiac tissue, where it starts with the depolarization phase, where due to depolarization there is increase in the sodium or calcium intake. Then further there is a plateau phase, and successively there is a rapid repolarization. The point to remember here is, in a normal functioning heart, if your heartbeats are exactly accurate, then this is the absolute refractory period. This is the absolute refractory period. An absolute refractory period is the one where the second action potential cannot be initiated. That means the heart or the cardiac cell must complete this one action potential before initiating the second one. So once this action potential is finished, then only it can go for a successive action potential. Fine. So that is the absolute refractory period. So basically, the pathophysiology or reason behind our cardiac arrhythmia is, we have seen if there is abnormal automaticity. So abnormal automaticity is when, see here, this is the absolute refractory period where 2 beats or 2 action potential has generated. But the lighter ones that you can see in the background here is that has started prior only, before even finishing off the repolarization phase, the action potential has already been generated. Fine. So that is an abnormal automaticity. Similarly, triggered activity. Triggered activity is of two types, that is early after depolarization and delayed after depolarization. Basically, depolarization ends up to this phase. This is the plateau phase where your depolarization period ends, and once after this depolarization phase, there is a rapid repolarization. So basically what happens here is, sometimes there is an triggered activity, there may be a stimulus which may stimulate our cardiac cells to make an action potential after this depolarization phase. Fine. That is at the rapid repolarization phase. So if it is occurring just after your depolarization, just immediately after your depolarization, or when the rapid repolarization starts, that is termed as early after depolarization, whereas if it occurs at the end of rapid repolarization, then it will be termed as delayed after depolarization. So these can be two triggered activity, but in a normal heart, what should happen? This is a complete action potential. This should go up to this point, and after completing this particular point, then further an action potential can take place. But that is not happening here. Fine. Here, due to like this, if this is the two action potential that should take place one after the another. But if something takes place, some action potential is getting generated at this place or at this place before even completing one complete action potential. So this is your early depolarization, EAD, and this is your delayed depolarization, that is DAD. Fine. So these are all your triggered activity. And the third reason behind this your arrhythmia is re-entry phenomena. So what is re-entry is, so by any chance, wherever there is an entry of your action potential, for example, this is an muscle or flow of the electrical activity. So basically what happens is, it is divided, it gets split up into two parts, and then it makes an exit from this point. Fine, in a normal cardiac tissue. But if somehow there is a blockade at this particular position, so what will happen is, the potential that is carried away from this side is going away like this. Fine. But the electrical activity that is going through this blockage will be stopped there. Fine. And if this is stopped there, to further, it won't stimulate the further tissues, further electrical activity won't move. So what will happen is, this particular movement will go forward in a circular manner, and it can stimulate the cardiac cells. So this is re-entry. As such, what the normal electrical impulse should do is, it should just move away and go with the exit pathway. But here the exit pathway is not taken up, it is going again back to stimulate the rest of the cardiac tissues which are not getting stimulated with the upward current. Fine. So this is the re-entry pathway. So if this happens, so it can stimulate your or it can increase or alter your electrical activity. So all this process, all this pathway, like automaticity is changed, your triggered activity or the re-entry phenomena, these three things together can cause your cardiac arrhythmia. Fine. So basically, to treat cardiac arrhythmia, we need to go for the pharmacological therapy. Apart from pharmacological therapy, we can also go for the surgical treatment here. So the pharmacological therapy, it is divided into various classes of drugs, like class 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. The first class one is your sodium channel blocker. From this sodium channel blocker, they are again subdivided into various types like 1A, 1B and 1C, where there are various types of drug and they act on different phases of your action potential. Similarly, the second drug in this sequence is your beta blocker. Beta blocker like propranolol or esmolol. These tend to decrease your heart rate. Beta blockers, beta receptors are present in your heart, so they tend to decrease your heart rate. Third category or third class is your potassium channel blocker, drugs like amiodarone. Then we have fourth category or fourth class drug, that is your calcium channel blockers like verapamil and diltiazem. Then we also have some drugs which are of unknown mechanism, not quite unknown, we know the mechanism, but how they are acting particularly for arrhythmia, that cannot be focused up. So in this we use digoxin and adenosine. Apart from using the drugs that has been listed here, we have various classes of drugs. We can also go for pacemaker therapy. Pacemaker therapy in the sense, if your SA node has decreased the activity, means as we all know that SA node is an automatic node, that is it is an autorhythmic center which can generate its own impulse, and it can consequently it can make the electrical current flow towards your AV node, then your Purkinje fibers and henceforth. So if your SA node is not working efficiently, so what will happen is, if your SA node is not working efficiently, it will be moved on, the work will be moved on to AV node, fine. And if both your SA node and AV node cannot generate the electrical current properly, then it has to be taken up by some external device, and that external device that we put on here to generate the electricity is a pacemaker. So we can also go for pacemaker therapy or cardioversion. Then we can also go for certain implantable cardioverter defibrillators and interventional therapy like ablation, fine. So these are all the treatment methods for your cardiac arrhythmia, fine. So the last disease that we'll go through here is hypertension. So what is hypertension? Hypertension is a hemodynamic disorder that is related to our physiology. So what we say here is our blood pressure. First we should know about our blood pressure. So basically our blood pressure is 120 by 80 mm of Hg. So a patient is said to be hypertensive. A patient is said to be hypertensive when his systolic blood pressure, systolic means when there is contraction of your atria. So whenever there is a systolic blood pressure more than 140 mmHg and diastolic pressure more than 90 mmHg plus, here the patient should not be on any type of therapy, any drugs. So at that particular point we will call the patient hypertensive. If the blood pressure is remaining more than 140 by 90 mmHg with not using any type of drugs, then the patient is said to be hypertensive. So basically hypertension is up of two types, that is primary or essential hypertension and secondary hypertension. The majority of the people are suffering with primary hypertension where there is no specific reason behind it. Although we will go through the reasons behind it, whereas secondary hypertension is the one where the person is already suffering with a disease and subsequently it may lead to hypertension. Fine. So all in all, we can say whenever there is a change in our blood pressure due to alteration in either cardiac output or total peripheral resistance. Fine. If your cardiac output changes, if the total peripheral resistance changes, it may lead to hypertension. If there is increase in your cardiac output or increase in your total peripheral resistance for a prolonged time duration, then it may lead to hypertension. So basic reasons behind your hypertension may be alcohol or cigarette smoke, then diabetes, elevated serum lipid level, family history or obesity, sedentary lifestyle, that is without any physical activity, socio-economic status, stress or age. Age is essential here because as we are aging, the elasticity of our blood vessel will decrease, and due to change in the elasticity, it may further lead to hypertension like situation. Now, these are all your reasons for your primary hypertension, whereas secondary hypertension, like if you are suffering with any of the renal disease or certain endocrinal disease, or if you are on certain drugs like glucocorticoids or oral contraceptives, this may in future lead to your hypertension. Then we have other categories like pregnancy induced hypertension, which is also termed as preeclampsia. So here the treatment is via non-pharmacological and pharmacological. Non-pharmacological means we are not taking here any sort of drugs. We are simply counseling and educating the patient to leave the sedentary lifestyle and go for more and more of physical activity. The person should go for a DASH diet and nutrition with salt restriction. The person should maintain a normal body weight or BMI with 18.5 to 24.9. One should manage the day-to-day stress, as for now in today's lifestyle we need to reduce this point very much, as due to stress the pressure rises. Along with it, we should also go for smoking cessation and avoid alcohol intake. So all these parameters are non-pharmacological. Now what should we do for the symptomatic treatment or pharmacological treatment? So basically the symptomatic or pharmacological treatment is taken up via various drugs here, like diuretics. In case of diuretics, we can use hydrochlorothiazide or furosemide. Then we can use here beta blockers like metoprolol, atenolol and propranolol. We can use here ACE inhibitors or angiotensin II receptor blockers, which we have seen they come into existence with long term and short term reflex mechanism. So here we can use ACE inhibitors like captopril, enalapril, or angiotensin receptor blockers like losartan. Then we can also use calcium channel blockers like amlodipine, alpha blocker like prazosin, alpha 2 receptor agonist like methyl dopa and clonidine. We can go for vasodilators like hydralazine and sometimes renin inhibitors like aliskiren. So this is how we can go for the symptomatic treatment of the particular problem like hypertension. Fine. So all in all, as we have seen all the diseases throughout the 3 sections of our disorders of heart, like coronary artery disease, then angina, that is angina pectoris, then we have gone through myocardial infarction, then congestive heart failure. Further, we have already also seen cardiac arrhythmia and now hypertension. So we have gone through all the diseases one by one. So here I complete my lecture. Like, now you all will be able to correlate with the anatomy and physiology of blood vessels. Along with it, you can also correlate your diseases with the anatomy and physiology of your heart. Fine. So I have taken the text from these references. Thank you for your patient listening.